Measurement and data collection. Objectives for this lesson are to examine measurement and measures, to demonstrate the knowledge and skills needed to collect data in an Excel spreadsheet. So what is measurement? What are the concepts of measurement? Directness, error, level, reliability, and validity. So what is the directness of measurement? Direct measures are concrete measures such as oxygen saturation, temperature, weight, BP, and blood glucose. Whereas indirect measures are abstract, such as pain, depression, anxiety, self-care, and self-esteem. What is measurement error? Error is the difference between the true measure and what is actually measured. So there's systematic error, the variation in measurement in the same direction. For example, a BP cuff that consistently measures 5 above the true measure on every person every time. And then there's random error. Differences in measurement without a pattern, a BP cuff measuring 15 less than the true measure due to a mechanical issue on a patient before it is fixed. So what are the levels of measure? Nominal, ordinal, interval, and racial. Nominal is the lowest level of measurement. Ranking is not possible. Categories are exclusive of one another and exhaustive. There's 3 examples at the top. Here's one that I describe in detail. What color is your hair? Brown, black, blonde, red, or other? You have to pick one. The next level is ordinal. It's exclusive and exhaustive categories. There's order or ranking imposed on the categories, and there's intervals between the categories, but they may not always be equal. Here's an example. An activities of daily living scale. Completely dependent, needs assistance, or completely independent. And then there's interval, numerical distance between 2 intervals. No absolute zero. It's often used in math and higher level statistics. An example is temperature, as measured in Fahrenheit or Celsius, or a Likert scale score. And then there's racial. It's considered the highest level of measurement. It's a continuum of values, and there's an absolute zero. 2 examples of this are weight and percentile test scores. So what are reliability and validity? Reliability is similar to the concept of consistency, whereas validity is accuracy or precision of the measure. How would you critically appraise reliability? What reliability information is provided? Does the author include reports of the validity of the instrument or previous studies in the literature, and perform pilot studies to examine the instrument? And did the report use data from the present study to examine the instrument validity in the discussion section? How would you critically appraise methods of measurement? You look at where the measurement strategies clearly identified and described, and what level of measurement was achieved by an instrument or tool. Was the reliability of each measurement method adequate, and the validity of each measurement method adequate? If a psychological instrument was used, were they accurate and precise? So before you use a tool for your QI project, you need to critically think about all these elements. You also have to think about what type of measurement strategies are used in nursing. We have physiological measurement, observational, interviews, and focus groups. Here's an example of a physiological measure, a EKG, blood pressure, or an INO. There's also microbiological measurement methods like cultures, sensitivities, and smears. What are observational measures? Usually, they're unstructured and subjective. Sometimes we have objective observation using a category system, a checklist, or a rating scale. How would you critically appraise observational measurement? You look at, is the object of the observation clearly identified and defined? Is there inter-reader reliability described? That means if two nurses do the same thing, did they get the same results? And are the techniques for recording observations described? So next, let's think about how to do data collection. How is self-reported data collected? With this type of strategy, the subjects or participants provide the data. This can be done through interviews, questionnaires or surveys, or on a scale. What do unstructured interviews look like? They usually have questions that are open-ended, like tell me about, what has been your experience with, or what was it like to hear you have cancer? And what are structured interviews like? Usually, this includes describing interview questions, pre-testing the interview protocol, and training the interviewers in preparing for an interview, and probing and recording interview data. How would you critically appraise interview methods? You look at, do the interview questions address concerns expressed in the problem, and are the questions relevant to the purpose, objectives, questions, and hypothesis? And was there subject bias, either in the design or the sequencing of the responses? What do questionnaires or surveys look like? Many factors need to be considered in developing questionnaires or surveys. These include items like language, reading level, length, clarity. So this is why it's generally recommended that you utilize an existing tool whenever possible. Questionnaires may be distributed or administered in person, by phone, internet, email, or mail. What are the reasons for using or not using questionnaires or surveys? The advantages is you can do a large sample, it's affordable and efficient. Disadvantages are bias, sometimes low response rate, and it doesn't represent the population of interest. What are some types of scales? There's the rating scale, a Likert scale, and a visual analog. All three examples are shown here. What questions should you consider when critically appraising the data collection process? How are participants selected and described? Then, can data be collected in a consistent way? Are the project controls maintained as indicated by the design? And did the design include an intervention that was consistently implemented? Was the integrity of the project protected? And how were any problems resolved? And did you obtain data from an existing database? If so, did the data obtained address the study problem and objectives, questions, or hypothesis? And was there reliability and validity? If not, how was data obtained? So you need to think about the sample size. You decide on the number of data points for a given sample. If you have a sufficient number, then you know if there's variance from pre and post, and you will probably be able to examine statistical significance. Another rule of thumb is if you have a two-group experiment, a control and an experiment sample, you should try to aim for 12 in each group, 12 pre and 12 post. So think about that if you're doing an education survey. And then we usually collect data within an Excel spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are one of the most mystifying pieces of software you'll encounter. Microsoft Excel is the most widely used spreadsheet software. You can collect data by hand entry or be provided in Excel for analysis. You can also perform simple analysis in Excel. You can sort by managing either numerically or alphabetically within an Excel datasheet. You can filter out specific values. Here are some common functions: average, median, sum, max and min, and count. And this is how you actually do it within the cells. You can produce a chart or graph by highlighting the area of data source. From the Insert menu, select Chart and press the button that corresponds with the designer chart or graph and select the values to display, add a title and descriptors. Other people make their charts and graphs within Word. So in summary, data measurement and collection are key to conducting a QI project in healthcare and very important to plan for and follow through with your plan when conducting a QI project. Thank you.